So guys, it's an honor to be here. I'm Bob Simons. This is a little odd because David Faber, who's a good friend of ours, who was supposed to be moderating this panel and who prepared to moderate this panel, I think has been sucked into something very serious. So good news is we're sitting with like some little gods of the industry. It's, look, Jorge Mas, you guys all know, Sam Nazarian, Ted Leonsis, and Donna Bennett. Benton, sorry. Can we take a couple minutes and just very quickly introduce ourselves? Just because David would have written something,
sure.
But
there he is.
Here we go.
There he is. Thank God.
You're doing a great job.
I was gonna.
You're doing a great job.
Thanks, buddy.
Well, we need another chair. Sorry, everybody.
And ignore those calls on your cell phone.
Yeah. I got the calls. Well, you want to sit, and I'll just.
No.
That's the best solution. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll stand over here by the piano. Where were we?
We just begun.
How are you doing?
Good. we just
Amazing.
started.
Welcome to Miami.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Apologies. I was
It's all good.
unaware of time.
It's all good.
All right, who started? Who was going? Was somebody talking?
We're raw.
Literally just raw? Okay.
Yes.
You
So
can
you
intro.
can
You
actually
can
introduce
intro.
people.
Well, it's good to have everybody here. I apologize again for being somewhat tardy. Nice group here. Thank you all. We've got sort of different views here because we've got some much more focused on sports and others more on sort of entertainment and the discussions that we've had and what it means. You know, Ted, I'd love to just start with you if I can. In terms of sports particularly, there seems to be sort of a fervor around so much of it of late. And yet I do wonder when you look at it as a team owner, as somebody who tried unsuccessfully recently to potentially do a new development in a different area but is now focused on redeveloping where you are. You know, are we at peak in a sense? Do you worry that perhaps things have gotten ahead of themselves when it comes to the valuation side?
Yeah, I think that should be a worry for team owners in that if you're coming into a enterprise, Monumental Sports has NBA, WNBA, NHL, the building, the network, probably valued $6, $7, $8 billion. If you bring in an investor, you want to promise them 3-5 times their money. I mean, those are big numbers, big hills to climb. So I hope we don't get ahead of ourselves, but at the same time, we're undervalued in that as we globalize and digitize these platforms, the NBA could be $1 trillion business, and individual teams, instead of being valued at $4 or $5 billion, they could be valued at $50 to $100 billion. So it's just the time horizon that you look at. That's why I advocate for sovereign wealth funds, the PIFs of the world, because it's their money and they have long time horizons. You know, Capitals, my hockey team, celebrating their 50th birthday, and we're considered a new team. You know, most private equity venture capital funds, they're looking for exits in 3, 5, 7 years. Pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, they have a much longer view of things, as do owners of teams. I intend to own the team for the rest of my life, and then I intend for my family to own the team. And so yeah, we're going to have to thread a needle on how we bring in big institutions to be investing and buying piece parts of these enterprises. How do we get them out? And I'm looking at the only way that happens is this has to become an asset class. There has to be an analyst group, buy-sell analyst.
You don't think it's already become an asset class?
No, I don't, because the only companies that are public right now are MSG and Liberty Media, and they are, you know, tracking stocks. No one understands Liberty Media. And
Formula
they
One,
don't.
right,
And,
yeah.
and you know, Jim Dolan has an unbelievable operation, but it's chopped up into multiple companies. And so we need to look like a software services company that has reoccurring revenues, long-term contracts with lots of great Fortune 500 partners, that we're under-leveraged. The league makes sure that you're under-leveraged, and that we are very safe investments over time. And you want pension funds then who didn't get in as a private company to be able to buy 5-10% of your company and put it in the box and just see how it develops over time.
Yeah. Jorge, let's keep it on sort of sports for now. I'm curious as to how you view it as well in terms of whether it's an asset class. And I'm curious as well, sort of what Ted raised there, the idea of you really need long-term capital, even longer perhaps than private equity.
I think it's closer to being an asset class if it isn't one already. And I want to echo on the fact that our leagues and Inter Miami, for example, and Major League Soccer, which is always been considered one of the smaller leagues, and frankly, I think the future of our sports, plural, is because we're global. You look at the establishment of Inter Miami, and we always did it in mind with not only being a Major League Soccer team, but trying to bring truly a global sport to America. Because predominantly, football, basketball, Major League Baseball, the NHL to a certain degree, have always been American sports that we export. And I think, like history, Inter Miami, this is our 6th year. And, when we looked at building a team, it wasn't only building a team, it was building a brand. Because we consider we're in the entertainment business. And it wasn't only just about a team, it was about us building an experience for families, for our fans, of building a new development that we have, which commenced about a year ago, Miami Freedom Park in Miami, which is going to house our new stadium, but it's going to also house hotels, office complexes, 2 million square feet of an entertainment district, and we're making a transformational neighborhood and transformational assets around our team, because I don't want our team to only be seeing 20, 24 home games a year. It's how does our team live in our community and globally all of the time. And with being having the ability to dream and bringing Lionel Messi to our team and our league has obviously helped. I think right now you look at Lionel Messi in the United States of America. It's the first time in our history that a foreigner and a soccer player is the most popular athlete in our nation. Every single time that Lionel Messi does something, it's global news. Today everybody talks about that last night he played. And,
did he get on the field with the freezing cold? I was seeing
minus 9 degrees. Not only did he
was
get
that
on the
a
field.
good idea, Jorge?
It was a terrible idea.
Okay.
He told me he couldn't feel his hands and his feet, but he scored the winning goal. We win. We come back home. And again, it's a testament to building a storyline, a narrative, the legend. And I think that's what's important. And it's transformed soccer in this country. So when you look at what we're trying to build, it's something that's transformational, that's global in its nature. And I think that when you look at our assets, it's not only a team, right? It's all of the physical assets that are around it. It's the vertical integration that goes on with everything we're doing with media and eyes, because we're in the entertainment business. Sports, in terms of interest, will never go away. When you look at the expansion, and you had a Champions League game yesterday, and all of the top teams. But I'd venture to say here today, by every metric, social media, etc., a Major League Soccer team like Inter Miami today is one of the top 10 soccer brands in the world, and we're only 5 or 6 years old. So there is value. It's possible to do it, and I think we're only at the beginning and the cusp of seeing continued growth as a capital class, because we have, in all these developments that we're doing, it's a multi-billion-dollar development we're building. Capital has been available. Now, as we look upon this 5 and 10 years from now, where do we go? And how do you continue to provide returns and growth to our investors? Be it debt, be it equity, be it the hybrids that are going to be available. We've seen the NFL open up, we've seen the NBA open up, and I do think that you will see more money coming into this, because I think as we get in a global competitive marketplace for players, for attention, and for media rights, the value is going to continue to grow, and especially in soccer, when you look at the U.S. market. It's been a very attractive market for foreign leagues. We are today, like Major League Soccer today, is not the most watched league in the United States of America. It's been Liga MX and the Premier League. So that will change over time. And hopefully as we continue to see that growth, capital investment's going to be necessary to start thinking, big and dreaming and
Dreaming, what does dreams look like then?
dreams look like being, having the U.S. being, the largest country in the world commercially. We should have the best league in the world. I'm just echoing something that Gianni Infantino from FIFA continues to say. Is to be larger than the Premier League. That's how the future looks like, because there's no reason, there's no obstacles to us doing that, because we have an amazing fan base here that just needs to be tapped and excited. But the future looks like that. Major League Soccer is the top soccer league in the world.
Sam, let me transition you a little bit. I'm actually, because you can sort of bridge that. Jorge talks about hospitality, about so many things around a team. You have experience, obviously, in that. Does it make sense to you?
No, I mean, not only does it make sense, I think surrounded by these amazing titans, when we look at our business, we started our business 22 years ago in LA, and our focus was around content. So if you have the channel, how can we bring more F&B, more hospitality? How do we look at that time, 22 years ago with Staples Center in LA? It was really one of the first mixed-use projects that changed the center of gravity, as you had mentioned, what you're doing with Freedom Park and what you're going to be doing it on your side. So we were a part of that with a company called AEG and Mr. Enschutz. And it was, from our perspective, being the biggest operator in LA at that time, Mr. Enschutz, who was the owner of the Lakers and the Kings and Staples Center, came to my club one day, 22 years ago, and said, "What you're doing here, we can't do in our suites. How do we change that?" And we built he gave me 8 suites at Staples Center, first time it ever happened in the industry, and we put our first nightclub called Hyde inside an arena. And all the concessionaires wanted nothing to do with us. The teams wanted nothing to do with us, but it was so successful that Commissioner Stern had a meeting in our club in the Staples Center and said, "This is the future of arenas." And we grew. Obviously, we did a project here at the American Airlines Arena. We did a project at T-Mobile Arena. But the point is, for what we look at, is the most important part of maximizing the investment in these mixed-use projects with full integration. Obviously, here we built the SLS hotels and we built the largest lifestyle company in the world. Miami was our core, launching pad outside of LA when we grew. But I think what they're doing is they're looking at the team as a brand. They're looking at the campus that they're building. And then companies like us can push the concessionaires, can push really the institutional thinking of some of these older traditional operators with new IP, new brands, connectivity, and then ultimately do the whole mixed-use project around these campuses. And I think as millennials and Gen Z are watching sports differently today, as you guys probably know much better than I, so how can we engage these campuses, not just for watching sports, but creating experiences for these millennials and Gen Z who pretty much watch a lot of these sports 8 minutes on YouTube. So I think these are two of the best brands in the business and the best owners in the business. So just that's kind of how we look at it from that side.
Yeah. Donna, I'd love to come to you. Obviously, a bit of a different experience from your side, although sports is also an important component of your overall business.
Yeah, it is. So I have a company called The Entertainer. I actually live in Dubai in the Middle East for 25 years where I founded that. And what we do, we actually offer incentives in the form of a buy one, get one free to sporting events, restaurants, hotels, spas, movies, etc. And just to give you an indication how big it is in the Middle East, we put into the market $1.3 billion per year with people using our offers. And sports and entertainment lifestyle is around 300 million of that. And I always say to eat is a need, but to actually go to a sporting event or a theatre, it's a want. So people are actually choosing to do this. But people actually, what we know, they want value. And I think everybody here alone in this room, whether they have kids, it doesn't matter about how wealthy they are or whatnot, doesn't matter in their bank, they actually want value for money. And what we've also seen is when people go to a restaurant or a sporting event, they actually spend 9 to 11% more than the customer that paid full price. So it's just really interesting how now I think sport, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel that people actually they love live sport, but they actually want it as a show now. They actually, they want to watch they want to watch the sport, it's passion, but now they want fun, they want food, they want the fashion. They actually want, a good 4 to 5 hours of sport, like a day out. So with us, I always put we sometimes make the unaffordable affordable for people to do a lot more times than they normally would. But in our region, in the Middle East, which I know this conference is big on, that it's growing. Obviously, Saudi is a huge part of that with the sport that they've done, but people still want value and they spend a lot of money on it.
So what would that look like? Just give me a sense of the experience you're discussing here, because I'm somewhat not as familiar with perhaps spending 5 hours somewhere, not just watching a game, but doing a lot of other things.
Yeah, so for example, I know you don't have it here, but the Super Bowl or the Rugby Sevens, you know, someone will go there and it's 8 hours. They can take their families, you know, with young kids, there's jumping castles, with F&B, as Sam was saying, you know, you've got 20, 30 F&B set up. The Rugby Sevens it's an all-day rugby event that's international. You've also got netball, you know, you've got bars there. So it's a day out instead of just, you know, I don't know, just going to a sporting event, you got your ticket, you go in, and then it's more about just sports, broadcasting and ticketing. So with this element, whether you bring in the tech, whether it's extra revenue, as you guys all know, you own sporting events and arenas, etc. So I think for us, it's more about the day out. Yes, I don't own sporting events, so obviously the commercial side's integral for the ones that do. But as a consumer and for us on our tech platform, that we know that certainly in the Middle East and America obviously dominates sport, but Europe and of course Australia, we're very community driven as well. You know, sports global really, and everybody just wants that bit of value and a bit more for their buck.
All right, let's turn to our moderator now. Bob, you know, we've got to turn to you to a certain, share the mics to a certain extent to filmed entertainment. We can kind of make a bit of a transition here as well in the time we have left, perhaps to AI and so many things that have been discussed at the conference already. But, you know, talk to me about what you're seeing on the entertainment side from the studio perspective, what that means in terms of AI as a storytelling tool and how you're using it, given obviously your long history in producing movies.
So it's interesting. I mean, I'm not a sports guy, though. I just finished shooting Happy Gilmore 2, which was a massive budget, which was fun. But Hollywood's basically broken. I mean, you heard Tony Vinciquerra talk a little bit about that. But I think that's actually the opportunity. And one of the things that we're finding, you know, I'll make another 10 movies this year, done about 140 so far. And those movies are predominantly financed and paid for. So, by the way, if people come to you for financing for films, don't do it. You'll get killed at some point in the waterfall. But what I'm finding right now is that it's so broken that we can reconstitute and disrupt the system in a way that I think is actually far better than the way things have been before. In a weird way, the streamers kind of crushed the traditional studios, and now the streamers are trying to refigure out what they're doing. So there is an opportunity to go in there and be an arms dealer and build these things out. One of the things that we're doing in AI is essentially trying to use AI to unlock human creativity. And it's actually working really well. So a lot of the large language models essentially are predictive data scrapes that tell you what would logically happen next, but they don't actually make compelling or engaging narratives. And one of my companies, which has taken off incredibly well, is sort of approaching it where we don't scrape scripts, we don't scrape data, we've distilled it down to a story genome, so the narrative is far more compelling. And I think that things like that are going to make a huge difference in terms of how stories get told and content gets produced. I mean, you've seen a lot of companies out there right now that are essentially cutting-edge visual effects, right? I can make Tom Cruise speak Japanese or something like that. That's actually not, for me, that interesting. I can walk through this building for 90 minutes with my cell phone, and that's not a movie. I can make really interesting images. What's important is content that actually engages and speaks to the audience, and I think that's where AI is really going to kick in.
You do?
I do.
And do you think it completely threatens those who actually have been doing this storytelling previously?
No, because the way we're approaching this is we're not stealing other people's IP. We're not scraping their scripts. It's essentially tools to help unlock your creativity. Think of it as the perfect writing partner, the perfect person to inspire you to pull out what's inside of you. And that is where Hollywood has been very, very aggressive in embracing it. The tools that essentially do it for you or replace you are freaking people out. So I think that's the path that it's going to take, including in journalism.
What does that mean?
Means when you run out of stories, how can this help you in your tone, in your voice, and in your body of work actually come up with things that you wouldn't come up with on your own?
So what will enhance? Well, I'm not creative. I don't want to be creative.
Well, but
when
you're a journalist.
I'm dealing with facts, right? And in my business, there's still money at stake. But that's an interesting approach. How are you know?
Adam, I was president of America Online, the second largest shareholder, and we bought Time Warner, and we launched in the first quarter of a combined company a new messaging platform that was really revolutionized how you would text. It was a big deal, and we missed the quarter because little Nicky was, and all I could think of was all the AI, all of the data, and you're doing Adam Sandler too, and we did Little Nicky, and we missed the quarter, and the stock got
Yeah, so that was my fault too, because so I did Billy Madison and Wedding Singer and Big Daddy and Waterboy and all the ones that worked, and on that one,
was that an Adam Sandler movie as well?
it was, and New Line gave us a lot of money.
All I remember
and
was the tagline was, his father was the devil.
Ah,
But
okay.
sometimes money can be the enemy of comedy, and sometimes comedies can work really well when you don't have a lot. And I'm sorry about that, because that one was crushing.
Yeah, my father's in hell. That's what I remember. The T-shirt was.
You can see right there it might not have worked. Yeah. AI, anybody want to sort of venture in terms of what that means for your business? I don't know, Sam, if you're using it or how you're using it, or Donna, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm probably like everyone else in the room. AI is coming. We all need to use it. It's integral. I also am a believer of the human decision as well. Things can go wrong. Data is critical in anything. You slice it, you dice it, you can see it's your demographic. And yeah, AI is the way forward. We just have to manage it, I think. That's probably what it is. You just have to manage it and use it properly and still have that human element moving forward as well to run our businesses and see what we can do with the data.
Yeah, and in our business, one of our businesses is called The Estate, which is in partnership with Tony Robbins and Peter Diamandis, and it's really kind of the combination of luxury and longevity. And our clinics, our longevity centers, focus only strictly on AI once you go through all our preventative testing. And the AI is really the key of us predicting through genomics and biomarkers and full body MRIs really where you're going to be within the next 12 to 18 months. So for us, it's done through our partnership with Fountain Life, but it is really a game changer through our tech and our app that is now injecting in all of our hotels around the world. So that is, I think, a very good use of the machine learning, reading different aspects of testing, especially now that we're doing it at such a scale.
We're actually using and looking at the applications of the fan experience at our new stadium. So how is technology going to be forefront in the experience? From when do you come in to how does the stadium recognize you? How is your ticketing easy? How's your entry and exit easy? But more importantly is, what do you like and what do you want when you're at the stadium? And at the same time, does it enhance your experience in so many levels? A lot of this is new. We have we've got a lot of people looking at it. I think it's going to be super interesting in this context. AI is being used for a very positive thing of what we want. From a very pragmatic point of view, like if you look at our soccer and our sporting division, AI is helping us, for example, with scouting, because it can churn information much faster and globally, so that allow you to identify players, not etc. So that's a pragmatic one. But I think the future is how do you experience things? Because everything that we're looking at Inter Miami and our development is what is your experience? What do you feel? Because the feeling, what attracted me as a young boy to love soccer was, I played baseball here. I'm a Cuban kid in Miami. I played baseball and basketball and pro. But the first time I went to Madrid when I was 15 years old and I went to a soccer match at the Bernabeu, it was a completely different cultural experience for me, and the passion. And you go to one of our matches and you see a section of 5,000 people standing up, 90 minutes, singing, smoke bombs, banners, super different than other sporting experience. So that's an experience. So we're trying to develop what is the next iteration of a great experience at a sporting event.
You know, I was first investor along with some of the attendees here from NEA and Masa-san in a company called Tempest. And Tempest raised $1 billion, just went public. It's now got a $15, $20 billion market cap. But it's for cancer research and drug discovery. And essentially, we would have the big decision. Your wife or your mom would have stage 3 breast cancer, and you'd get to that magic moment and you'd say, if this was your mother, if this was your wife, what would you do? And the doctor would say, you know, there was this New England Journal of Medicine report from 8 years ago. Let me pull that up. Or I have a partner who had a case kind of like this. And every one of us would say, I could plan my vacation. I could buy a car with much more precision than answering that question. And so this company Tempest, and now there's lots of companies, we take genomic information, we merge that with all of the blood work, x-rays, we have 60 million entries, and we're able to say, well, this is your wife, and she's of Swedish descent, and her mother had diabetes, and father had this kind of genomic background, and there are 88,000 people that just look just like her with the same kind of cancer, and the ones that take this drug with this kind of treatment, they're still living because we have the data of their adherence to the prescriptions. Oh my God. It changes the work of the oncologist, it changes the work of the parent, or and that's what AI will do. I also, so check out Tempest, and you'll see that as kind of for healthcare. I just started and I've invested in a company called Proxy Foods, because big food companies are poisoning the world, and they need a way to be able to say, and also pet food companies. You've heard the dogs won't eat the dog food, right?
We've gotten far afield from sports and entertainment here.
Well, but it's not, because the genomic information. We were talking about load management. We're talking about what kind of body types, what kind of people, what their backgrounds, how they performed. So we use that a lot as well. Proxy food, same thing. Young people want healthier outcomes. They want better food, but they still want it to taste good. And so Proxy has built this huge database and is helping companies like the Nestle's and the Mars and the Hershey's. What natural product can replace the poison that you're putting into your products today?
Right.
And will it taste good? And your ethnicity, your genomic makeup drives a lot of what you smell, what you taste, how you get the texture. All of that comes from digitizing and having the global nature of things. And I think AI is going to change rapidly a lot of huge industries, food, health. So I'm long on AI. I believe it's the most important new development since the web.
I don't think you'll get a lot of argument there. Perhaps because I was late, we got more time. So you see what I did for us all? And if there are questions from the audience, I'm happy to entertain some. Yes, sir.
You talked about valuations and getting ahead. What happens when players are getting $1.5 billion, $2 billion, because they're just part of the equation of your asset base? Like, and I say that as an older, fan of sports who remembers when guys would go 9 innings and they no longer do, and it pisses me off. Like, Mets take the guy out and have no hitter. I might be totally off base.
No, you're not. I think you're seeing some of that now, right? You're seeing a lot of owners being tech people, or they own casinos. They're all about data. And if you make a mistake now with your max player or your super max player, it's over because it's a $500 million kind of mistake. And so I think you're going to see the balance go back to the data. And is this a good investment for us to make?
Well, and he mentioned Messi, right? It's like, as a fan, that's what we watch. We want to watch in -0,
Right.
somebody do something inhuman. That's what makes Messi Messi.
Yes.
So if you take that away because he's your most important asset, you're making a great business decision. You're also ruining your product.
Yeah, you're ruining the
And I
fan
just wonder
experience.
At what point does that break? If it is a risk, I don't know.
Or do you want to try that one? I mean, there is to add on to the question, which is a good one. I mean, Messi is almost your partner in
Yes.
this.
Yes.
Does that become more the rule than the exception for the players who are as big or bigger than the sport itself?
It could, but that's a mode of compensation. It's not a structural mode that may force major league general managers to design teams for guys to go 5 innings and then you pull them, which is very, very different than what I grew up with and played. For example, structurally, soccer's not made that way. You only have 5 subs a game, period. You can only substitute 5 players, and the custom should be your players go all 90 minutes. And if the great players should play every game all 90 minutes. Then it becomes loads, management, etc. But structurally, and you see it, I think, in Major League Baseball. I think you're seeing it in the NBA, where players just aren't playing because they don't need to play during the regular seasons, or so what. There needs to be a balance, because once it starts affecting the eyes on the sport, it affects media value, it affects valuations, it affects players' pocketbooks. But I do think there'll be a normalization back, because I don't think that inflation appreciation is sustainable, especially from a fan perspective.
I have Alex Ovechkin plays for my hockey team. And he'll probably be the last professional player to be drafted and play his entire career and break an all-time scoring record. I mean, we're blessed. And he's Russian machine never breaks. He's been available 94% of the time for us. He's just turning 40 years old. He's about to break Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring record. And he grew up with the franchise. I paid $85 million for the team. It's worth $2.5 billion right now. I thank Alex Ovechkin every day. We can't pay him enough. We are partners, but we're blessed in that the fan base he fell in love with, and the fan base fell in love with him. And, we've sold out every game. I shudder to think what's going to happen when he's not there, although we have a really good team. But that may not happen again. LeBron's played for multiple teams. Wayne Gretzky played for multiple teams. So to have one player be like one great actor under the studio system that grows up with you, and you can count on him to open movies.
Do we have any other questions? Yes, in the back.
You mentioned before, Mr. Moss, about how Messi is bringing so much to the sport. Mr. Leonsis, you just mentioned how Alex Ovechkin, he might be the last player where he's drafted. He grows up with the team. There's this clear fan engagement. How do you make sure that the player doesn't become bigger than the franchise? It doesn't become bigger than the sport. So therefore, fan engagement continues to, persist, and you're rooting for your city, your team, which I think is something that definitely happens overseas. But in the U.S., it's a little bit more difficult. How do you interact? How do you deal with that problem today?
Look, Messi's a unicorn. He's bigger than a team, and he is correlated with the sport. So it's a one-off. It's a Michael Jordan, and maybe a handful of other athletes in the history. So in dealing with this unicorn, what is our challenge? Our challenge is post-Messi. Our challenge is, how do we continue building a momentum? And ultimately, I boil it down to one thing, is you need to win. Our fan base wants championships, and we need to lift trophies, period. If you win, you create winners, you'll be fine. So our advantage now, and our opportunity was created by bringing Messi here, because he's brought, and let me flip that as well. it's not only what Messi has benefited Inter Miami and the league and the sport here, it's also vice versa. It's what America has brought to Messi. 6 months in, he was in a commercial in the most culturally relevant event in this country called the Super Bowl. Did it again this year. You know, he's a spokesperson. So for Messi, the brand, it's also catapulted him 2x, 3x of whatever he was normally used to doing, being a global superstar at Barcelona predominantly, and then PSG. But the challenge for us is that. So the Ovechkin story. So from Ted's perspective, it's going to be, how do I continue winning? How do I, the legend, because he's, everyone I think knows who Ovechkin is. Messi the same. It's the next iteration. So that's what we're doing now. We are preparing for a post-Messi era, whenever that will be. But when you have a unicorn, you need to grow your sport, grow your brand, grow your expectation in your fan base. It's a huge disappointment we didn't win the MLS Cup last year, and that's good, because we need to win it this year. And we need to perform well. And we're going to play the Club World Cup this year, first time in the U.S. here. We're going to participate there, one of the top U.S. teams. There's a lot of pressure on our players, and there should be, and that's fine. But ultimately, it's about building a brand and building a winning brand and a winning culture in an organization.
I think time for one more from the audience if we have it. Shelley.
I love this conversation. I just want to ask you a question about AI, because we talked about AI in everything we do, sports and entertainment and health and food. I learned something recently that was kind of shocking, which is mice don't menstruate. I'm going to pause for a minute to think about that. And we're using lab rats for all of our experimentation, as we know, especially in health. And so my question really is, in thinking about AI and data, and even in sports, a lot of the AI is used for sports technology to improve our performance. Are we thinking about the implications across the board for data and bias and algorithms?
Anybody want to take a shot at that? You've stumped the panel.
Obviously, garbage in, garbage out. But the scale now of data, and that's really what the big change has been, right? We have 5 billion people connected to the high-speed internet, and soon it'll be 1-to-1, and each person has multiple ways in the office, at home, on their phone, and so there's no shortage of data. For healthcare, it's getting the genomic data, getting the actual prescription data, getting the actual adherence to the protocols. And now young people they don't view privacy in the same way that I viewed privacy. They want to publish that info. They want to exchange it for a better outcome. So I'm a realist, but positive that the data will become more and more perfected, and then the middleware companies, and the amount of money that's being spent has to be about scale. It's going to have to be from, NVIDIA is the world's most valuable company right now, but it has to be by Apple. It has to be by Microsoft, because they're trillions and trillions of dollars. The amount of energy that these companies are going to suck down, the amount of service that they have to throw at it to get these good outcomes is, indescribable. It also will drag along Wall Street. The amount of growth that we're going to see in tech spending, the amount of growth that we're going to see in what we pay, the fight for math majors and software engineers and PhDs. I mean, it's going to be a race. It's why we're so nervous about China, because China's the only other place that has that kind of scale, and it's one company, the country, that we're competing against instead of multiple individual companies.
Right.
So I think it is. Our president has said that this is a war worth fighting. It's something that we have to take very, very seriously, because whoever wins the AI better outcome war will be the most powerful country, and they'll be the most powerful companies on the planet.
Let me come back and sort of end here, if I can, sort of on a broader theme of entertainment. Bob, I'll come to you. I think it was Reed Hastings years ago who said, at Netflix, our competition is not other other streamers. It's time.
It's sleep, yeah.
Yeah. How do you view what you do versus what, in terms of the entertainment that's available, the time that's available, the amount of leisure time people have, especially filmed entertainment? I'm just curious as to how you see it, given how much time is now spent on this. And
So I actually love this conversation. I loved hearing the way you guys talk about hospitality, lifestyle, sports, because it's very similar to the way we view movies, which is it's an emotional transaction. And it's funny because I love sports, but I didn't think of it as an emotional transaction. But that's what you guys are all doing. I mean, for us, I've said this before, which is, you pay me money and I'll change the way you feel. I'll scare you. I'll get you excited. I'll make you laugh. I'll make you cry. But it's that emotional transaction, and you're going to pay me for that experience, and that's exactly what you guys are doing. So I thought this is far more cohesive than I was expecting.
And in terms of answering the question?
I'm doing way too many movies right now with Netflix to actually go anywhere near what Rita's saying.
How many are you going to do this year?
10.
Okay.
Wow. Middle East.
Well, panelists, thank you all. And thank you, audience, as well, for your questions.
Thank you.